So tell me, do you really struggle with boy names? A lot of people get in touch with me. I'm a baby name consultant, and they're always saying that they've got their girl name list, but they're really struggling with the boys. So this list is all about simple as luxury names. And I think this is a real sweet spot for so many couples when it comes to choosing a boy name, because they aren't traditional or vintage. They are just really rare gems. Often the ones I've picked here are the highest they've ever been in the charts, because this trend is absolutely massive. So listen along, get your notepad ready, get your naming partner ready, and enjoy this simple CottageCore name list for boys.
Ran down my head, I let you go. Do it alone, won't let you know.
This list is pretty much a bit of me. I would have any of these names on this list. So the first one is ranked at number 79 in the UK, which is the highest it's ever ranked. So it's the most popular it's ever been, and it's the name Jasper. So it's a really well-known name, but it's only at number 79, which actually puts it in a really sweet spot for so many parents, because it's not too unique, but it's also not the top name. And I feel like it's along the same vibe as an Oliver and a Noah. It would make a great sibling name, but I love it at the moment. I think the J really softens it. I always had Casper on my name list, and they come from the same root name. So Jasper, Casper and Gasper, which maybe is still used around the world, let me know. They all mean treasurer. So I really love that idea of this little treasure as well, and somebody who's almost, to me, feels like a little collector of things. And that was because Jasper, Gasper was one of the three wise men in the Bible, and so he was the rich one. But I love that Jasper is also a gemstone, so it makes it really rooted to the earth. It's this gorgeous red gemstone, and it's linked to meaning. All stones have a meaning, and it means protection and strength. So it's a really grounding one. So it's red, so our red root chakra grounds us to the earth. So it's a really lovely one for this kind of cottagecore simple living aesthetic, and I just think it is having its little moment. Next name is the name Walter. Now Walter is a bit more retro than some of them on this list, but again, it's having a bit of its days at number 302 in the charts, and it's gained a bit of popularity recently, like Walt, because we love vintage nicknames as first name, and Walt is really lovely. This is a really ancient name, and it's actually really never peaked. It peaked more in America, where it was number 25 in the charts back in the 1940s. So it's not always had its 100-year cycle. We're sort of still in the 20s names, but Walter is so ripe for the picking, where it's a bit lower down than a lot of the other vintage names like Stanley and all those that have come up more recently in Albie. Walter's got a really cute nickname of Walt, which I love, and actually originally this name in medieval times would have been pronounced water. So for me, it's got that real earthly element to it, and I just love it. I know a lot of you are Disney fans, and obviously there's Walter Disney, so it's got that little subtle Disney nod as well. That trend is massive at the moment. All the celebrities are doing baby names that are Disney based, and it means ruler of the army, so it's kind of got a strength to it as well. So for me, it feels like a really simple, unshowy name that's got a lot of love and is beautiful to say, and I don't think you'd ever get bored of Walter. What do you think of it? I think it's one of those that will be pronounced differently as well around the world, because I would say Walter, but I wonder if you would say it differently. Greek names are really popular at the moment, and the name Roman is really popular, but a Roman name that hasn't come up yet is the name Augustus. So we talked recently about the girl name August being the highest it's ever been at the moment, and Augustus is much lower down. It's outside the top 1,139 is where it's ranked, but I love it, and I love the length of it, and it's actually, the root name is the same name as Sebastian. When you go right back, it's the same name, so you could have a Sebastian and an Augustus, and where Sebastian's sort of a bit more like, we don't mind its length and that it's a tiny bit tricky, we get tricked up a little bit more by Augustus. But with Augie being really popular, August being really popular, I actually love adding the S ending, because it makes it sound a lot fuller. And even though this is as simple as luxury, this is how to do it, just by adding that sort of strength to it, because it's a rounded name. It's not like you're adding anything too sort of extra Augustus, and I really love it. I do think of Augustus Gloop and Roald Dahl, but that's a literary name, even though he's maybe not the nicest of literary namesakes. Augustus was actually a Roman emperor who took over from Julius Caesar, and he was quite a pioneering person. He did a lot of social good, particularly for families, and tried to change the rules for larger families. Women could have more rights. Women could write their own will for the first time ever. This is back in Roman times, so kind of a pioneering name. And I just love the nickname Gus. I just absolutely love the nickname Gus. I think it is so gorgeous, like a teenager, older guy. Gus, I love it. The name Chester has been trending for about the last 5 years, and it's hit number 87 in the UK. So down at the bottom of the top 100, Chester, and it is so lovely. It is so outdoorsy and grounded. I absolutely love it, and it actually means fortress. So that's why it's at the end of a lot of city names, like Manchester. It would have been a walled fortress of a town, and I love that idea of this sort of wall, this very rustic living, and there's kind of like protection as well from fortress, which I really like. I also love the fact that in Sweden, Manchester, it means corduroy, so they actually call it Manchester, that fabric, which is a very trendy fabric. I just always find that really sweet. But I love the name. It has been chosen by a few celebs, so it's kind of getting a little bit of outsider use. But if you've never thought of it, it's very, very, very similar to like an Oliver. Again, those sort of top name vibes, but much lower down, Chester. So have a think about it. Would you like to go with it? Ranked at number 729. This is one of my favourites on the list, and it's the name Ivo. I love it. Ivy is so popular for girls. It's on so many of your girl name lists. And then you find that you're having a boy, you could just go with Ivo. It is so lovely. It's got the O and the V, which are so popular. Lovely sounding, short but sweet name. So simple but gorgeous. It doesn't sort of feel boring in any way. And it means yew tree, the Y-E-W, yew tree, which is a beautiful tree. So it really connects them to nature and their outdoor living. And the yew tree was also known as the archer tree because it was what they used to make bow and arrows. So it's got that really outdoors spirited little name to it, Ivo. It makes you happy. It's as joyful as like a jack or something. I just think it is absolutely gorge. Ranked at number 860 for boys is the name Lowry. Now, Lowry is also a feminine name, so it's a gender neutral name, but I think it sounds so good for a boy, for either, and it means laurel. And the laurel wreath was to symbolise victory, honour and peace. So again, in the ancient Roman times, I'm just there in my head. You would get that laurel wreath if you won a sporting or even a poetic championship. I think Lowry sounds so, so good. I love the uniqueness of it. I love the spelling Lowri. I think it just sounds really trendy and so unique and different to a lot of what's already out there. Another boy name that's higher than it's ever been before, ranked at number 64 in the UK now, is the name Jesse. This feels so modern to me. I know it's been around for ages. It is predominantly a boy name, but there is Jessica, which is really popular, and Jessie as a nickname. So it kind of went out of style for a little while, but it's been ramping back up through the charts. It's actually an old Hebrew name, which means God exists. So a really gorgeous one again. A little bit of a modern virtue name, potentially. See what you think of this. It's a tiny bit of a wild card. I do have all my wild cards at the end. It's the name Abbott. So Abbott is an occupational name, so it means father, but father as in like priest. So it's an interesting one, so an abbey and then an abbot, but I love it. I just think it sounds so good. It's not dissimilar to like a Robert Abbott. I just think it sounds really trendy, and really those modern virtue names, you know, is a very pious meaning in a way, but they're really popular all over the charts at the moment, these modern virtue names. And Abbott is one I haven't really heard, and I love it written down, so it's Abbott. So yeah, winning at Wordle with that one, but I just love it so much. So one of our fastest rising boy names of last year, or 2 years ago I think it was, is the name Axel. So Axel actually means father of peace. So it's got this really peaceful, like, basics living, and obviously axe, feeling like somebody out there chopping the wood, but mostly it seems quite rock and roll because of Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses. So it's kind of, again, one of those that hit a few different associations, but it's obviously doing something right at the moment because it's flying up through the charts. It's really popular in Scandinavia. It's really popular in Iceland from what I've read. So it kind of got those sort of Euro vibes as well going for it. Axel, what do you reckon? Is it one you could both agree on? Because it sort of seems to hit a lot of people that they both like it, but maybe for very different reasons. This next name, I wonder if it's quite divisive. I wonder if it's a love-hate name. It's at number 326 in the chart, so it's got a good solid charting. It's the name Rufus. So Rufus Wainwright, and there's a few more celebrity Rufuses that are making this a lot more popular, and I just think it works so well for like a back to basics. It means red or red-haired, and that would have been, again, it's a really ancient name, and often these names mean things like crooked nose or stumped hand. You see names that mean things like that, and that would have been a characteristic of somebody. So it's really sweet if you did have a little red head to have a Rufus. But even if you don't, I think Raffi has been so popular recently and feels much more modern, and Rufus feels a lot more pared back, grounded, simple, lovely. It's that sort of thing about it. Is it a dog name? Is it a name for a pet? Not so much a person, which I really don't think it is. Like for me, I know a few little baby Rufuses, and I just think it's so gorgeous. And it's just never been a real top hitter. So again, you're getting a sort of a rare gem that's just yours and a lot more special. And similar with this next name, I had this on my name list. It's the name Wilbur. I loved it so much because Wilfred was so popular and I knew a lot, and I was like, oh, I love Wilfred loads. I've obviously had a Freddie as well, but then I've bounced onto Wilbur. It means wild boar, so it almost totally means what it looks like, but I love that it means wild boar. I love that it's got this like wild animal. Boar maybe not so much, maybe a little bear would have been cuter, a little Orson, but I loved Wilbur so much. It's so gorgeous to me, and I think Will is really, really nice. It doesn't go out of style. It's kind of a bit more everyday than a lot of other names, but if you've got Williams in your family that you want to honour, then you can't really go wrong with a little Wilbur. I just think with the B, it's so unique and different. As I said, it's number 450, and it means brilliant, resolute and brilliant. So who wouldn't want that name for their little baby? I just think it's so pretty. I can just totally imagine little Wilbur living out in my Swedish cabin with me. So pretty. My first wild card, so these are a little bit more daring potentially, is the name Virgil. So Virgil actually means flourishing and to flourish and come to life. So it's very similar to Blossom or Florence and all those things which mean the same, Virgil. It's kind of a difficult one to use because it sounds similar to some other words, so it's potentially one of those that's like, oh, do I love it or hate it? Am I daring enough to use it? But I just think Virgil, it's so lovely written down, and it just kind of kept coming into my mind to put on a name list, and this felt like the perfect one with that really rooted meaning. Also very poetic. There was a Roman poet called Virgil. There was also an early Irish saint called Virgil. So lots of reasons to love it. Another name I've been really questioning on lately is the name Anderson. So surname as first name, it means son of Andrew. So if you've got an Andrew anywhere in your family, dig them out and say, I just love you so much. I had to call my child Anderson. I love it for a girl as well because I love Andy for a girl. I think it's got the nickname Sunny, which is gorgeous, and Anders, which I love, is my brother-in-law's name. And I just think with that literary feeling with Hans Christian Andersen, who is the Danish writer of all the fables and all the fairy tales, it's a really lovely pared back. That idea of a simple childhood just comes springing straight to mind when I hear the name Anderson. I think it would be such a cool baby name announcement, such a brilliant name, so many variations of it that you can go with for them as well. So a really rare idea. What do you think of it? There were 15 boys named Anderson last year, so if you have an Anderson, whoop whoop to you. Props to you, clicks to you. Oh my gosh, so old. The other name I came up with was the name Clifton. So Clifton, again, it's a place name. So place names are having a little bit of a resurgence as well. I remember like Paris and Boston and all of those names, and Brooklyn, but I actually thought Clifton sounds really good. So it's a town by a cliff essentially, and it just sounds lovely. Because Clive, you guys aren't quite on board with Clive. I'm there with Clive. There's a place in Bristol called Clifton, which is a very trendy city in the UK. Bristol's a popular name as well, isn't it? Clifton. I just think it really, really works. If you're looking for something really unusual and different that no one else has, you can't really go wrong with something like Clifton. And it puts me on that beautiful seaside out in Cornwall on the edge of a cliff or somewhere like that. It's just very whimsical, but not frilly. Are you with me? I got two more. This one's crazy. So basically, the Roman god of the underworld, Pluto. I suddenly was like, I love the name Pluto. I think it's genius. With all the Disney names that were coming up recently, when Molly May, a celebrity here, she chose Bambi, and I did a big news report, and I was looking at everyone else, and then I suddenly was like, do you know what? why is no one going with Pluto? It's a planet. Well, it's a dwarf planet now, isn't it? But it just sounds brilliant. This Roman god of the underworld, very cool. Maybe Disney ruined this for us with the dog because that's all most people's associations. But the actual name is really trendy. It's got kind of Juno vibes, doesn't it, Pluto? And we're all into celestial names at the moment, but I felt this also sounded quite earthy and playful for this list. You think I've lost it now. And then I'll leave a really good one then. Pippin. Pippin. Surely we all have the name Pippin. There were 8 boys and 6 girls named Pippin last year. How much would I love to meet little girl Pippin? I think it's lovely because Pippa's really popular. I think Pippin for boys, it was always a pet name for a Philip. So I can see why it's getting used as the nickname. And it means awe-inspiring. Isn't that just perfect? Just perfect, awe-inspiring, so lovely. But the actual name is so playful, so back to basics, so sort of larking around little Pippin. You can just see him outside with his stick. It's such a beautiful, it's actually short for peregrine as well, and peregrine means traveller. So I would go peregrine, nickname Pippin, if I could ever have convinced my husband to be brave enough. Right, so I'm done. I hope you found some fun boy names there. Were they your style? Were they sort of too out there for you? Were they too boring for you? Let me know in the comment section below, especially if you've watched this far. Please leave this video a thumbs up and a comment. Just say hi, it really helps me to get my channel out to more people. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and again, it just really supports me to keep making these videos for you guys. I love doing it. It is such a highlight of my week, and this community here is obviously a real sense of companionship and community. Same thing. Right guys, I will love you and leave you. I'll be back next week. More boy names coming up. Let me know any more themes you would like to challenge me to turn into a baby name list. Make them daring and fun. I could do with some good research time on my hands this week. Lots of love guys. Let me know any birth announcements as well. Birth announcements and pictures. Bye guys.